All right, I believe we are now live. Hi, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Oracle Inn podcast. My name is Eric. I'm joined by Laquan and Kevin, and we're going to be kind of talking about some more recent events, kind of a continuation off of last week's discussion, and just looking at relevant information. And whoa. Oh, I know what that is. Sorry, I got like feedback through my headphones and I'm hearing my voice. It's because I got the YouTube page up.
That's got to be painful, man.
So, on that note, for those of you that are watching us, you can do a live chat through the YouTube channel if you click on that page. Also, we put a thing out on Facebook, so if you want to leave something in the comment box, if you have a point that you'd like for us to bring up or that you'd like to make, we'd love to talk about it. And in general, I thought before we get started, just for everybody that would be watching, we're also looking to bring on guests. And I think it's pretty clear where our voices are and the perspectives that we have. And if you would like to come on and voice your perspective on some of these issues that we're bringing up, we certainly want to welcome everybody into the conversation. So
come argue with us.
Yeah, come on down.
Yeah, you don't have to agree. You just have to want to talk.
Verbal warfare. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, so on that note, I don't know about you guys, but this last week just it's been through what I've seen through media, but it's also what I've seen through my own friends, and it's been really interesting to see the outcome of perspectives from Donald Trump being elected president. So, what are you guys seeing? Because it just seems like there's a lot going on right now.
Let me just go ahead and break bread first, real quick. So here's something that's been kind of bothering me. So wrote a couple things down, and so it's kind of really just kind of what Donald Trump ran on versus how he's backtracking now. So these points that I'm going to talk about are the things that galvanize his voting base. And these are the things that they stuck to. And these are the things that, this is why I want to vote for Trump. So he said that he was not a Washington guy. He said he was going to, he was running an outside campaign, non-establishment. But yet all the people he's appointing, Verizon, Republican lobbyists, it's all the same. Everybody has done that, so he's done nothing so far to show that he's not a Washington guy. If anything, he's shown everything that he is a Washington guy. He's already backtracked on so many different things as well that, he talked about, I know some of these things sound simple, but these are things that he really ran on. He said, I was going to jail Hillary, when asked about it after he's president-elect, you know what? He hasn't really put much thought into it. The Mexican wall, Newt Gingrich, I believe, is like, look, Mexico's not going to pay for the wall, and they're going to put up some fences in certain places, but that strong stance behind the Mexican wall, the Mexico wall is gone now. What else? Banning Muslims. All of a sudden now it's a registry. No longer banning Muslims because you can't do that, so all of a sudden now it's a registry. Taxing China. That's not happening, Go ahead.
Okay. So just to make sure then, so basically what you're going over are the talking points that Donald Trump said during his campaign to get elected. And now that he is officially the president-elect, now he's all of a sudden changing his story and taking back those claims. And now, claiming that he's going to, fight for the guy at the bottom of the ladder. And then to see him basically installing corporate executives is kind of counterintuitive to what he's saying and contradictory.
Correct. So in just the last couple, the Iranian nuclear deal, he said he's going to rip that up. That's not happening. Scrapping Obamacare, he said he's going to keep pieces of it, and he said he wanted to bring back waterboarding. That's not happening, So the point to all this is the fact that these are talking points that he ran on. These are the things that people rallied around, and these people really wanted, some of his supporters, not all, not every, but most of the supporters rallied around these points. Now that he's president-elect, he has backed off all of these, and nobody cares. So, there's more to it, and I'll say it later, but that's just kind of where I wanted to start off.
So I want to correct one thing, which is that he is president-elect. He is not president-elect. He is the presumed president-elect because the Electoral College has to meet to actually say this is the next president. They could just throw a couple of middle fingers up in the air and say, no, Trump, I don't care that you won the Electoral College votes the way the system is designed. I'm not voting for you, asshole. So It's presumed that he is. No one is really seriously talking about them overturning his election, but it's not a done deal yet. There's something like 4 million signatures on a change.org petition telling the Electoral College, guys, help. Seriously, guys, help. I think there's a few people of the Electoral College that have said that they're open to changing their vote, from who they're supposed to vote for to who they want to vote for. So it's, it's more or less a done deal, but crazier shit's happened in this world.
Well, Pence is their guy anyway. So I mean, if Donald Trump for some odd reason is not put into that seat, Pence is who they want anyway, in my opinion. So,
well, they did. I mean, the Electoral College could give it to Hillary. They could, and she would probably, being the establishment politician, she would probably go, no, that's not how we want to do things. Come on, we have to, she'd put up a little.
I got $10 that says she takes it.
Same here. I'll put it up.
I don't think she's gonna be like, no. Let's give Trump a chance. Come on,
really?
Dude, she won the popular vote. I'm pretty sure she's gonna be like, no, you guys have my back.
Yeah, maybe. So talking about Hillary, there's something that's been bothering me, because I think a lot of the people on the Trump supporter folks are looking at all of this kind of backlash and saying like, oh, sore losers, and it's just because it's not your guy. What I don't think they understand is this. A lot of this, the same people that are pissed off about Trump, we're going to be pissed off about Hillary as well. A lot of this, push, it would have been coming her way as well, saying, no, you got elected. Now you're on the hook, and now we're going to push you to do better. The problem is, instead of saying we're pushing you to do better, it's like, I'm pushing you to not be a complete and total douchebag. Because right now his cabinet appointees, 2 points on this. One, nobody wants to work with this asshat, right? So people are starting to backpedal. He's got a limited pool to who he can pick from. And the people he has picked are god-awful. You got Jeff Sessions for Attorney General, who was considered too racist to be a federal judge and is now going to be the chief attorney of the U.S. if Trump has his way. And you got, what's funny, though? When he said he's considering Mitt Romney for Secretary of State, everyone's like, oh, okay, Mitt Romney I can deal with.
Seriously.
I'm like, really? Like how long? It wasn't that long ago that Mitt Romney was. I mean, I guess it wasn't the same. People didn't have that same opposition to him. It was more like, we don't like him because he's not really our guy. But it wasn't like, no, he's the devil. He's literally Hitler. He's just orange,
that brings up an interesting point, though, because is there something that we do expect out of our politicians, a certain level of decorum? Because that's what the whole anti-establishment is about. People are tired of this, let me throw on my suit and tie and let me be totally cordial and let me give you this, perfect friendly version of myself without getting real. And I think that's why Trump appealed to so many people. I mean, dude, even in Orange County, I would talk to hardcore Republicans that are the California Republicans, which to me are very different than other parts in the country. And even they were saying like, yeah, I like the way he speaks his mind.
Yeah.
That blew my mind.
All that says is, I don't know shit. Oh, I like how he speaks his mind, which, if you look at what he says, have you ever read? Okay, don't listen to what the man says. Read the transcript of what he said, and then tell me that you enjoy that.
It's great. It's going to be big. We're going to do it great. Believe me, I've done it in the past. People like me. I'm going to do it. Just what you'll see. Yeah. I'm good at this.
Yeah. That's 100% of his speeches right there.
So what I think is interesting, though, and I've been really trying to follow this part of it. All he does in life seems to be to race. And I don't, we'll tie that into the racism, which is a separate thing. But he always wants to win. He always wants to be the boss. He wants to be the person that comes out on top. Now that he's won the race, he won. He beat everybody. And he beat Obama. He beat everybody. Now what? You got 4 years where, and this is what I think is going to be fascinating. you're going to be held accountable to your enemy, and your enemy is going to be in your face every step of the way. The left is not going anywhere on this. Democrats are going to get up in his face more than they ever have, because before, when he was shooting off his mouth and doing all these things, like Elizabeth Warren would come out and talk against him, and Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, I think, did it with a little less childishness. I think Elizabeth just kind of went down a path that I really wish she wouldn't, but that's just my opinion. But the point is that I think, he had the freedom to escape that. He didn't have to confront it. He didn't have to stand in front of Congress. Now he does. So maybe the Republicans can hold it down for 2 years. I'm going to be very shocked if the Democrats don't get the majority of the Senate and the House in 2 years.
I said, I don't know how many times I said this, where I said, you know what? I hope Donald Trump gets elected, because we'll never have another conservative in office for 50 years. He's gonna shit the bed so hard that you won't be able to get that stink out of the house for so long. It's gonna be like, no. None of that guy or his friends get to come over here anymore. So I mean, it's almost like, you know what? Let them do a little bit. The problem is when you say let them do a little bit. All right. So what's happening since he's gone from president-elect or from candidate to president-elect, right? A massive uptick in hate crimes. So when you say let's let him dig his own hole a little bit, what we're really talking about is, let's beat a few minorities. Let's really show them for who they are. The liberals, the left, they can't stand by and let that happen. But at the same time, it puts you in an awkward spot.
Yeah. And I would say this too, is we're kind of starting to see a little bit, in my opinion, just kind of like how he is. Because if you think about all the unrest that's happening right now, a lot of the racially charged protests, a lot of racially charged violence that's out there due to the Trump, winning so far, where he's at. And I think some of you heard of, this whole Hamilton play where they called out Mike Pence to make sure he takes care of everybody of all races. It's kind of really the overview of it. And so Trump, he had a little hissy fit, and he demanded that they apologize. But what this says though is that instead of really addressing what's happening in America, because you say you want to bring everybody together, you want to make America great again, you want to unify, this would have been a great opportunity for him to really, really shoot down what's happening. I know he did a little 60-minute interview where he kind of just gave them a little quote like, stop it. But people are looking at this as like, well, you're more upset about them the cast of Hamilton calling out your VP, than you are what's happening, in your, under your charge. Well, it will be under your charge at some point, but you're not calling that out. You're not really, trying to calm it down. You're not taking a strong stance, being like, look, guys, this is not the way to do it. We got to stop. We got to do it better, but he's not doing that, so. I
didn't see anything wrong in what they said. I thought what they said, it was very respectful. It was just, it was the type of approach I would want to be approached with, which is we're non-threatening, but we are saying we're a part of this too. Please don't forget us. That's basically what the people on stage said. For anybody that wants to look that up on YouTube, just type in Hamilton and Mike Pence. And the actors at the end of their play went to take a bow, and one of them decided to come with something that was obviously prepared once they heard that Mike Pence was in the audience. And he basically just said, we're a part of the family. Please don't forget us. That's it. And all of a sudden now we have this thing where, Kevin, you're going to make me hesitate now. The president-elect, or presumed whatever.
Marmalade Mussolini. That's his official title.
That's guy. But for him to come out and to say apologize, I think is also, it's reckless and dangerous in the sense that we have a First Amendment. They were completely within the bounds of, they were on the property of the theater. Mike Pence chose to enter into the theater. They chose to voice themselves, and they have the freedom to do that.
Well, so Trump didn't just say apologize. He said theaters are supposed to be a safe space. And he spent, the last year arguing that there shouldn't be no safe spaces. The liberals need to suck it up. And then he gets, guys, Mr. Pence, I really hope that you don't completely shit on us once you get into power. That'd be great. Because we're all here together. No, we can't let that stand. Oh, hell no. You know, all of a sudden it's, we need a safe space because the guy got mildly nudged towards being a fucking human being. Here's my favorite thing about Mike Pence. Here's my favorite Mike Pence story of the day. 50,000 people have made a donation to Planned Parenthood in honor of Mike Pence, which means he's getting 50,000 fucking letters saying, thank you for the donation made in your honor. I'm one of those 50K, but I think we need to turn that shit up and make it 50 million because that would be hilarious. I want his staff to just quit because they're like, we can't carry these bags, dude. They're bags of letters.
You know, so I this is going to date me a little bit. But for you that know who Tim Robbins, an actor, did Bull Durham back in the 80s. The guy's been in a lot of really good classics, and he's also been really deep into theater. And he sent out a message earlier in response to Donald Trump where he said, no, sorry, Mr. Trump, the theater must always be a dangerous and contrarian place. We will entertain you, but we will not kiss your ass.
Yeah. Well, Trump's used to yes men kissing his ass, telling him, you know, that was an excellent bowel movement, Mr. Trump. It didn't smell a bit. And
when are we going to get bonuses?
Yeah. So there actually, I saw something just pop up. It says, my favorite scene in Hamilton is where the president-elect, Marmalade Mussolini, has to pay $25 million for defrauding 6,000 college students because he settled. He said he would. Oh, I did nothing wrong, but he settled. Which you know why you settle? Because you're about to lose.
You know what I didn't get, though, by that? Why in the hell did they settle? Why did the plaintiff settle? Why would you not have carried that to... I don't want to say... See, I need to get out of some of these terms. I was going to say carry it to term, but that's probably not a...
I can give you 25 million reasons why they didn't turn it down.
Why, though? Why wouldn't you carry that all the way out? I don't get that.
25 million reasons. Hey, we got paid, but we got our money back.
Yeah, but would they not also receive that money if they won their court case? And they would have been able to take him down? No. He would have been impeached at that point.
No, he wouldn't.
No, he wouldn't. It would have won away. This was their best. It was their best shot right here. So here's two things. Remember that rape case that's gone away. That 13 when he was
she's backed out.
Yeah. Guess what? You know, death threats, it's all type of stuff, and all of a sudden now, you know, you discredit her enough, and all of a sudden now it kind of goes away. You know, again, this kind of speaks to the culture that we're in right now. Look how many women have been sexually assaulted this year, and even in the past, they come forward. Guess what happens? You know, they're getting smacks on their hands. You know, they're having their stories ripped apart. You know, like they're lying. You know, so. And here's something that we talked about off air, and this is something I wanted to submit, is that I brought up the fact that people, you know, Trump is a good salesman. You know, I'm not really sure he's a good businessman, but he's a great salesman, and he was able to have people buy into his Trump brand, because I'm really sure that if you really poll a lot of his supporters, I'm not saying any of them stupid, I'm not saying they're all racist, I'm not saying it's not everything. All right. What I am saying is that if you really poll them and ask them, you know, his policies and why they really did it, I don't really think they can really give you a really coherent, intelligent answer. I don't think a lot of them can. So I think they bought into the brand Trump like anybody does. It's a nice brand. He sells it nice. He makes it look good. It's over the top. It's great. You know, you buy into it. Just like with Trump University and everything else he's done. There's nothing behind the brand. You know, it's false. There's nothing there. He got you. He got what he needed.
Have either of you ever spent a significant amount of time in rural America, anywhere, maybe rural Arizona or anywhere, doesn't matter, just somewhere where it's a small town? Like here in Flagstaff, we're no longer a small town. We're a small metropolis, maybe getting a little bit bigger. But I always think back to, you know, what my time was like in those cultures and that pace of life. I think a lot of his supporters are just, for lack of a better way of saying this, bored, and he excites them. Regular politicians give regular talking points. It's boring because it's kind of like, you know, what would you rather do in life? Live life to the fullest, but only live till you're 30, or take things cool, take the mellow, and then you can live out to your elder years, to your 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, and I feel like he tapped into that young teenage sort of aggression of, I don't want to be told what to do. I want people to speak their mind. I don't want filters. And that's what he delivered. And it surprises me that, that map that we showed on last week's podcast, to just see that if you look at pretty much all rural areas in this country, that's exactly who voted for him. So
I just pulled this up because I spent a lot of time in, let's just call it a neighboring community to where we currently house ourselves. That is rural. It's small town. It's, oh gosh, you betcha kind of town. And I've had conversations with folks, good people, I'm not knocking them at all, but they're, they barely got through high school. That as far as, a formal education, comprehension of the issues, they know what their trade is better. They'll forget more about what they know than I could ever possibly learn. I'm not saying they don't have knowledge, but when it comes to the, economics and, the bigger kind of the bigger stuff that affects the macro level, to use that word, I guess. Trump's speeches are at a middle school reading level. So when he's talking, he's not talking to people that talk about macro level economics. He's talking to people that say the dicker jabs, because that's where his speeches are. That's who he's talking to. And as much as the leftist elite, liberal douchebags of the world like to pretend that everyone knows as much as they do, as far as the formal education, I've got degrees, I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you're a small percentage of the population. And to think that everyone else looks at issues the same way, or that you understand them correctly, right? There's a huge assumption right there. You're sorely mistaken for who the general population is. When you start talking about, I can't believe they'd vote for a guy like that. Of course they would. That's the guy that sold them the tires they didn't need on their lifted truck. They love it. Nobody likes being sold, but everyone likes to buy.
If I could tap into that, the thing that I wanted to bring up and get some feedback from you guys. One of the things that I've been really struggling with is how to approach friends of mine who have supported Donald Trump. They voted for Donald Trump. And when I approach them on the issue of racism, it really is surprising to see how much they will not consider themselves racist. And I've heard a lot of other, things coming through my news feed, just people voicing that, not every Trump supporter is a racist. And I feel that that's inaccurate, because by the very definition of racism, by empowering him in any way, shape, or form, you are in fact furthering racism. Look at race theory, look at history of racism, and that is what it is.
So I saw a cool story on Facebook where it was a Twitter post of this girl that her neighbor was a Trump supporter, and I think either I'm assuming it was a woman posting, or I actually remember it being a whatever. But her tweet was that her neighbor came over and said, I really hope that you don't hate me for supporting Trump. And her response was, I don't hate you, but because you supported him, I think you hate me. So it kind of flips that, I'm not saying that all Trump supporters are racist, but the racists got what they wanted.
Right.
It comes with the package. There's another thing I saw was not all Trump supporters are racist, but it wasn't exactly a deal breaker.
Right.
When you look at that kind of stuff, you stop and think, and it's, well, Trump. Well, yeah, but the KKK endorsed him, and that wasn't a deal breaker. That wasn't like, wait, the KKK endorsed this guy. No.
Well, they might not fall under racism, right? But there's a category they fall under, right? Because it was misogynistic, xenophobia, racism. So maybe it might not be the racist aspect of the rhetoric. Maybe it was something else. One of the other talking points, or some of the other rhetoric, charged rhetoric that he used, if they fell in. There's a lot of people who subscribe to being misogynistic. Of course they would never say it, but the xenophobia, and the racism. But yeah. you do, in a sense, subscribe to it. In a sense, you're guilty by association, because it wasn't like he said these things behind closed doors. These were on mics with TV cameras in front of him that he said countless times.
In front of huge crowds, which clapped.
So you knew where he stood for, what he stood for. You knew that. You understood his rhetoric, everything. You heard what he said about women, how he degraded them, how he felt about them. You heard the racist rhetoric. You heard about that. You all of it. So you heard it over and over and over and over again. So you can't pretend like you don't know.
Isn't this like the same thing though? Because when we talk about white privilege, it's almost inseparable not to talk about racism because they are intimately connected. And I feel it's like the same thing with Trump supporters. And for all of his supporters to say, I'm not racist, but it's like moral disengagement. It's like where you intentionally take the wrong and you block it out of your mind.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'll throw in another little, wrinkle here. And we talked about this before as well. I mentioned in the last podcast, and, there was a friend, a mutual friend of all of ours, who posted something I thought was really cool, And I brought it up last week that 53% of all the women who voted, or however you phrase that, were white, voted for Trump. And so you would just think that, I would hear more from the feminists, that there'd be more rumblings, there'd be more just momentum, out there, because it's like, wow, they're in a sense progressives, right? So it's just like, well, what the hell's going on? There gotta be some checks and balances. What's going on here? Like, I can't believe y'all did this, because in a sense, y'all setting our movement back, by doing this, because again, it's traditional versus progressives when it comes to the women, and if you think about out of those 53% of those women, it's traditional versus progressive. So traditional values won, in this. And so I'm just surprised I'm not hearing more of this. It's weird to me, so.
See, what I'd like to know is at this point, what does the left do? What do you do at this point? Because this is where, and cue that video, share that on our page, dude, because I thought she was on point in the sense that what I think a lot of the left needs to wake up to really quickly is that they need to, a lot of them, and I have my own role in this and my own humility that I have to show a lot of us. We have to stop talking the talk and walk the walk. And the one thing that I really noticed about this election cycle, and I've talked about this before as well, including on the way back to Bernie, is that when I saw the Democratic Party become self-righteous, that's when I knew that they were in deep shit. I knew it at that point that, you know what, you guys are putting in a little bit too much ego. You're making personal attacks. You're taking the same exact road, the same game plan that the other team took, and now you're just basically going to bring it down. So that's what I'm wondering. Where's the high road in all of this? How do you create that movement? Because if not, I think the left is going to continue not to voice themselves in a direct way, which they really need to start doing, but learn how to do that where you can confront that emotion that you're going to feel inside and then be able to come up against your opposition in a way that instead of inciting violence, instead of taking that road, you somehow can spark and engage dialogue. And that's what can progress things, is when you have a sharing of ideas. But when we close each other off and then put up that barrier, then we're not sharing ideas. We're throwing ideas at one another to see which one can hurt who.
So you have two parties, and I'm going to gross generalization, right? I am not at all. Here's a disclaimer, right? Do you guys ever think when you have a thought and you're like, this is a perfect explanation for this, that if you were explaining it to a reporter, you would spend 5 minutes explaining, this is an oversimplification. Don't fucking quote me on this. If you look at what I'm talking about, not the words I'm saying, because if I see this shit in a little pop-out box that's like the one quote for me, I'm gonna be pissed.
And it's gonna happen.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm waiting to see how people on the left react, because, one of the reasons why I withdrew to become an independent is just because I was tired of the bickering back and forth. I'm bored by it, to be honest. I don't hear much progress happening. I do think the left has a good I would say advantage in the sense that because they're more inclusive in their ideals, because they want to care for people and meet people's needs where those people want to be met, I think that gives them a little bit more of an advantage. Not to say that people on the right are all wrong. I think a lot of times we do need to try to push a message that people should be more responsible for themselves, that if they want to do better in life, you got to figure it out. And I think there's an element to that where, you know, because we're so convenient in our lifestyles, I think we fall back on laziness and apathy. And that's where, you know, if we're choosing to have, you know, video games and movies as opposed to being able to engage in meaningful dialogue, I just don't see how it's going to go further from there. And I think Kevin just dipped out. I think his internet went out. But you feel what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, no, I do. I'm not exactly sure what needs to happen in order to reach common ground, you know, to have a conversation, you know, between, you know, people who voted for Trump and, you know, people who didn't, like, you know, because there's a lot of people out there, you know, who feel disrespected, who feel like, man, like, really, that's how you feel? Because this is the same man that went on Good Morning America, I believe it was, and said that, you know, we need to go bomb these people's families. Like, we need to bomb their families. That's what he said on national TV. This is the same guy that said I can go out there and go shoot somebody and I won't lose votes. This is the same individual that said, who was encouraging violence and said he would pay for legal fees. This is the same person where people was in his rallies getting punched and pushed out, you know, making fun of, you know, handicapped individuals. This is that same person. This isn't nothing that happened behind closed doors. This is something that happened in the public. It's the same dude that said that a woman can't be a 10 if she has a flat chest.
You know what, though? But this is the thing, though, is that I feel like a lot of his supporters and followers who they laugh at that in their mind. Oh, that's just humorous. It's funny. It's nothing to be taken seriously. And it's difficult, man, because I'm actually getting depressed in all of this because I have Muslim friends, I have minority friends, I have, you know, friends in just about every group that he's dissed, and those people are not laughing because it's when, like, I was watching something in Texas that some random Middle Easterner was driving, and apparently some guy driving by apparently had like a Trump stick or something, threw like a Molotov cocktail at his car. Like, and that's just one of like several stories that I've seen come out from reputable sources. And it's just, it's like that other guy. And the other story was like a guy was in Starbucks and apparently they weren't making his coffee fast enough. So he decides to attack them saying, I voted for Trump and that's why y'all lost. It's like those may seem like small, minor moments that are not connected, but the common thread is that it comes back to the idealism of Trump and what he basically instilled for people to do. And that's, if you're white and you're proud, go voice yourself. And we already have enough of that in society. It might be more subliminal, it might be more toned down, but I think that's why a lot of minorities, you know, homosexual communities and women in general, they already know this because they're like, we're on the receiving end where we're not laughing. We're always the butt of the joke, and we're tired of being in this position. So I don't even know what to say, man, because to look at the cabinet that he's filling out, where these are, dude, it's just it takes me back because I think what I'm waiting to see is what are the Republicans in Congress going to do? You know, now you got to start controlling this guy because, you know, like Kevin was saying, and actually, Q, I think you were too. Dude, it's going to ruin your brand for the next few elections if you don't get a handle on this.
Nah, I agree. So I want you to follow me on something, and I want your feedback on it. We kind of talked about this before. You know, man, in that same vein, I just lost my train of thought.
Yeah, come back.
Oh my gosh. Oh, here we go. I got it. So, all right, Trump and all this stuff that he said. Okay, fine. We all know the things he said. We all know his stances on things too. It's just the fact that the people that put him in the position he's in right now. Okay, this man has zero, not even like student government experience, you know, from middle school, high school, nothing. All right. No no military type experience at all, besides maybe going overseas and shaking hands and meeting people, you know, as a part of like a show run, Celebrity Apprentice or something like that. Okay, so we have zero political experience. We have zero military experience at all. No diplomacy, no foreign experience at all, you know, dealing with, you know, international affairs of anything. So we had a crowd of people that put him in a position he's in right now. They believe that much in a man who had no experience to take this country to the next level. Now, you can say what you want to say about Hillary. Okay, I wasn't the biggest fan of Hillary either. But here's the thing. This man had zero experience, but he was able to galvanize a part of society that put him in his position. So here's what I'm thinking. And a lot of people are not going to like this, and I really don't care. Like, to me, that's stupidity and that's insanity. Like, really? That's like taking any one of us right here and putting us in, I like sports. Let's say, put us in the head of a sports team saying, all right, go run this organization. No experience at all, but take us to the next level. But the only thing you ever said was, I have experience. I've ran businesses. I got a lot of friends. You know, they like me. You know, people like me. I'm going to do it big. You know, you'll see. That's the only thing you've ever seen from this man. But these people thought he's going to take it to the next level.
That's what I think is going to be interesting, though, like I said, because now he has to prove himself. There's no running from this. Like, if you quit the presidency, which honestly, I would not be surprised if he did. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow over the next 4 years, he just said, you know what, screw it. This isn't what I thought it would be. I don't want this anymore. I quit.
This kind of feels like a hold my beer moment. You know what I'm saying? That's what this whole thing feels like. It's hold my beer. You know, when somebody does something stupid, you're like, well, hold my beer. Let me show you. That's what this feels like. He was like, you know what? Because you know when Barack Obama roasted him in that little dinner thing, he was like, all right. He's like, I got this. Hold my beer. And I honestly think in my heart of hearts, Donald Trump did not think he would be here right now.
I don't think so either.
I feel like it was an inside joke that went wrong. You know, he was like, oh shit, like I won. He was like, all right, well, what do I do now? You know, so he was like, what I do?
Right. So one, I'm back, baby. Secondly, I think Donald Trump's a little bit more egotistical than that. I think he actually thought he would win the whole time. I think he knew he would win. And he, you know, it's his ego. The dude is a walking hard-on of ego, right? That's all he does. I'm the best. Ah! You know, he's not the best. He's if you look at financially, best case scenario, he's 30% the best, because the money he got from his daddy, if he would have put in an index fund, would be 4 times larger, or 3 to 4 times larger than it is right now. Assumed, because we don't know. The dude could be worth 75 cents and have a happy meal left to his name. We don't know. He won't tell anyone.
Yeah. So
I think what was I ranting on before I left? It was the
what should the left do now?
Oh yeah. So the left is really going to have to okay. So I was saying there's 2 different parties. Overgeneralization, don't quote me because I'm just making shit up to a degree, right? On one side you have, I don't care what the facts say. And the other side is, well, the facts say, and I don't care what people say, right? It's the overgeneralization, left and the right. For those of you on the right, you're the ones that don't care what the facts say. We're all on the same page. So what does the left do? The left can't, our go-to, our main thing is, well, let me explain this to you so that you'll understand why you're wrong. Really? Hey guys, how's that going for you so far? Bang up job the last couple of years, eh? Huh? No, it's, this just in, that doesn't work. So what does the left do? The left has to get more, they got to tap into feelings, emotions, and, you know.
Isn't that what they're about, though? Like, shouldn't they already know this? Or is it just the fact that they have to start tapping into that are not their friends? They're not like-minded people. Like, yeah, let's put your empathy to the test.
Because the left doesn't have empathy. The left says everyone should have empathy, but the left doesn't give a shit about factory workers. They're like, oh, factory workers need this. But when you start talking about, okay, so Fred is a factory worker and Fred voted for Trump. Oh, well, fuck Fred. Okay, where'd the empathy go? You know, the left has empathy so far as it's a macro level. When you start talking about micro, they get real pissed off at the individuals. The left likes people. They don't like a person, right? They get real pissed off at a person. So what the left has to do is they got to get better at what the Republicans are really good at, which is talking to the emotion, talking to the feeling, talking to the heart. You know, you have a guy who puts word soup out every single time. He's woefully unqualified. He's on record as he's like, I'm the best winner. You're not a best winner. You lose all the fucking time in court. Like, you get sued more than anybody. So it's what the left has to do is we gotta take a page out of the Karl Rove handbook. And, you know, doing the blocking roadways, doing protests and stuff like that is effective in getting news coverage. It's not effective in changing anyone's point of view.
That's right.
Right. You know, so what is it you do with that? So I'm not saying, you know, don't protest. I'm not saying don't go block a freeway. I'm not your mom. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But if you get the eyeballs on you, you need to start making an argument to Fred. You need to start explaining to Fred, who only cares about his factory job. Like, listen, I'm concerned about my 401k and my family. And, you know, yeah, immigrants have taken a lot of jobs from my friends.
What jobs?
Yeah.
What jobs? Like,
Well,
here's the thing.
They just took the first lady, man. An immigrant took her job. So I don't want to hear anything. No. So, okay, here's the flawed argument in that they took my jobs piece, right? Is they didn't take your job. Your boss gave them your job because they were cheaper. Yeah. No, absolutely. Hands down.
I hate that argument. Like, yeah, what job did they take? Well, fine, go pick your own strawberries then.
Yeah.
Go pick your own avocados. You know, go work, you know, in McDonald's or wherever else. You know, go. Bye.
Clean up your hotel room when you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please go take those jobs.
Yeah.
And you're complaining about minimum wage, right? And go take their job because they're not even getting paid that.
But that's what I'm saying is we're having this conversation at that level of, you know, which jobs, and they're like, well, Bill got replaced. It's not about this macro level understanding of minimum wage and, you know, immigration. It's about that one guy they know. And until we can actually start understanding that mindset and that framework that they're dealing with, we're not going to get through to anybody. It's just not going to happen. We're going to talk and they're going to go, no.
This is what I want to see. I want to see white people in front of Lowe's standing there in a group like the Mexicans do because they're taking their jobs. I want them to stand right there and wait for another white person to come pick them up in the back of a pickup truck. Because those are the jobs that they're talking about they're taking too. You know how you have like the Mexicans sitting there waiting for work, you know, because those are the jobs that they're taking, you know.
Those guys actually make okay money.
But that's what I'm saying. But those are the jobs they're taking. So I want to see a whole bunch of white people sitting there on the side waiting to be picked up in front of Lowe's.
The real shitty jobs are okay, Flagstaff, right, just passed a minimum wage thing that pegs our city minimum wage at $2 an hour more than the state minimum wage. The state just passed a $12 an hour minimum wage. So that goes to $10 in January, I believe, which means Flagstaff goes to 12, which means everyone that works in minimum wage just got about a 50% pay raise in 2 months. And what we're going to see, and this is, you know, we're right here. We're about to see. I don't have to guess because, you know, wait a minute, and all of a sudden we know the answer. But I have a feeling that you're going to see a lot of those people that are the immigrant jobs being taken by white people that, you know, they're not going to do as good a job. Oh, hell no, they're not going to work very hard, but they're going to be like, oh, well, wait, $15 an hour? Oh, hell yes, I'll do that. Because all of a sudden it's not, you know, it's not bottom of the barrel. It's actual money. And it's going to be interesting to see how that actually plays out because they took got another damn fly in my room. That they took my job argument is going to be, it's going to be flipped. You're going to have you know, the Latina that's been working in the hotel room, you know, hotel service is going to be like, Pinchy Gringa took my job. And it, you know, I'm laughing, but it's not funny. it's going to be fucking interesting to see how this all plays out, because we do a really good job of doing these huge broad level brush kind of, we need this, without really digging deeper into what does that mean to, Bill and Fred.
What I would love to see, and this is just within the context, and it's almost like an example. It's an example here. I would like to see the illegal immigrants be like, you know what, raise their hands, be like, you know what, fuck it, okay, here's your jobs. I promise you, you give it a couple months, they be begging them, they be driving across the border, bringing them back. You know what I'm saying? Because they'll start to see what it really takes to do the job that they're doing. So, you're taking your jobs. Okay, cool. Like, how can they take your jobs? They have no. So presumably, you want to say you have a high school diploma or a degree, whatever, right? And they don't. Most of them don't have that. These illegal immigrants, right? So how are they taking your jobs? And you're more qualified because it's cheaper labor. And that's really what it comes down to, is cheaper labor, and you're not willing to work. At that pay scale, and like Kevin said, your boss is giving your job to whomever because they're willing to work at a cheaper wage, and it saves him money. And most times you don't have to pay him health insurance either. So saves you money all around.
I think in general, the thing that I'm noticing about Trump and a lot of politicians nowadays is that they're not in the streets. If you're connected to the streets and, you know what to look for, how to keep things, real with yourself and what's going on around you. It's like I'm not laughing at what's going on here in Flagstaff too, because we have a lot of housekeepers and hotel keepers who have been getting paid an unbelievably low wage. I think it's like something like $3 or $4 an hour. They're asked to work on the weekends, and they're oftentimes not paid. So clearly, people that are being exploited, and God, and it says nothing to the Native American community here. But when I look at people like Donald Trump, the only parts about the streets that is that it's like a Hollywood movie set to you. It's not real. It's just these surroundings that you can dip in and out of. Then you hop on your private plane, fly out of Compton Airport back to Malibu or wherever it is that you have your other, 50 million houses. So it's just interesting to see that these are not people that are, intimately connected to the streets. So for them, they're trying to fix problems that they really don't know what's going on. Because when we're talking about, what jobs are actually being taken, there's a reason why California's economy is so strong. They include all those different, I don't want to say levels because I don't know if that would be accurate, but different populations. And they understand that those different populations, they each kind of find their niche and they play to that niche. And if it's one that adds to the overall economy and they're not threatened, then it helps everybody thrive together. Where you have somewhere like Arizona that's like, no, we want to control everything, and we want to make sure that these populations don't grow or gain any power because they're going to change the way that we do business. And it's clear what works and what doesn't work. I mean, education is a big part of that. And, there's a reason why California is like the best in the nation when it comes to K through 12 or K through higher education. They've invested deeply in bringing in different cultures and teaching different cultures and understanding that that's what helps people thrive, because we can't all do the same thing. We don't all have the same level of value for our work. You have to find a niche, and you have to see what's not being tended to and where the work needs to be done. So I think there's a lot of political advocacy that's going to be going on in the next few years too. And I'm hoping that the left takes all that intelligence, takes all that education, and they really start to strategize and overcoming, and Republicans too. I think a lot of Republicans are fed up with their establishment too. So it's just people in general. If you're smart enough, let's figure out a way to just make this thing work.
The Republicans fed up with their establishment handed us Donald Trump. So fuck them. So here's the thing. The left needs to check their fucking education at the door and get to know people. That's the end of that's it. You want to know how we win? Stop being so fucking smart about everything and listen for a minute. Stop pretending like and go talk. I mean, the guy that's panhandling on the corner. I mean, I have. Have you ever sat down and actually had a conversation with someone? I mean, some of them you're like, Man, you are so full of shit. You're just trying to get a couple of bucks because you're on a road trip. Man, fuck you. Other people are, you talk to them and they're like, holy shit, this person sees me as a human being. It's the first time since they've been there that someone actually was like, are you okay? Like, are you okay? So,
yeah, and Laquan, if you wouldn't mind sending me that link to that video that you had her tagging me in it, because like I said, man, this woman did like some video for Facebook, and she was, I'm assuming, a liberal, and she just checked. It's like I'm really glad that she finally stood up and just said, "Look, for those of you that think that supporting Donald Trump is okay, for those of you that think that those kind of values are okay to permeate throughout society, let me just check that and let you know that I'm basically putting up a dam because I'm not going to let that go through." And that's where the conversation needs to be at. I think all of us, and this includes the left and the right, because I think a lot of my friends on the right, we all got to do some soul searching here. Write it down on a piece of paper. What are your values? What do you care about? What do you hold as something that should be kept as part of your life and something that you see that should be operating in society? Once you get to that point that you can actually define it, which honestly I don't think a lot of people can, because they just kind of go with the flow of things. They don't really think about it. Think about your values, and then that's where the confrontation needs to happen. And again, that's where I think we need to stop hiding from it. I think we need to stop being so overly sensitive that it, triggers one of our core, buttons, and instead, toughen up just a little bit, because we all need to get real quick. Because at this point, I'm seeing a power shift, and it's happening at a federal level unlike anything that we've ever seen. Because if we want to talk about white supremacy or, the establishment or whatever it is, wherever that power has been, it's now going into the hands of those who intentionally want white populations to thrive over everybody else. And when I say white, I actually mean heterosexual white populations. And that's just where I think we need to be.
Heterosexual white males. Don't you include females in this?
Well, what was it? 53% of white women voted for Trump?
Yeah. So heterosexual white males. Continue.
Well, yeah, but that's what it is. And I don't know. I think what we need to do is we need to push a little bit more, because, there was a post that I saw, and it was from a Native American here in Flagstaff, who's a pretty, big activist. And dude, oh God, it's amazing to see their perspective, because we look like complete fools on the left and the right. We look like we don't know what we're doing, and we don't, and that's evident. And it just makes me wonder, how are we going to be able to pull all these things together? Because it's just, we just got to wake up. And that's what I mean. Like the left, y'all need to start getting smart, and smart in the sense that, and this includes me, so I need to not be quite so direct about this, because we all need to do it. We all need to do a better job of understanding how to communicate our message without making it about our ego, without making it self-righteous, and instead to make it about righteousness is like a shared space. That's why righteousness to me will always trump self-righteousness, because it's literally getting beyond your bubble to establish a rightness with another person. I think that's what justice is supposed to mean. So I don't know, man. I've been reading a lot of Plato and Aristotle and Socrates, and they talked about this. This is what they were talking about back then.
Put down the philosophers, go talk to Fred and Bill. Go sit on the corner with someone who's panhandling. Go have that conversation, because it's going to change. I mean, it changes your whole perspective. Like I sat down and talked to a girl that was sitting on a corner, asked for money. It fucked me up for a week. Like, just the reality. It just fucked me up for a week, because I was oblivious that anyone would be in that position, right? To me, it was like, oh yeah, just stop doing what you're doing. But to actually have the conversation, and you got to get out there. You got to deal with people one-on-one with who they are. That's it.
I agree with Kevin. And, for me, I would say that you have to holster your ego. and you have to check your education at the door. You know, I say this all the time: is you cannot forget that we were not always in this space. You know, from an education standpoint, we didn't come out the womb with master's degrees, you know, RD and PhD programs. Like, you had to acquire this knowledge. You had to seek it out. Something had to happen in your life where you're like, you know what, I want to enlighten myself, you know, to get to a certain point where I can understand things from a macro level, not a micro level. You know, I want to understand things from a macro, see how things work. And so I say all that to say this is we have to have conversations with each other, right? And I know that does sound simple, but it's not that simple, because there is an ego. And again, I say you have to holster that ego, because if you are educated, if you do hold a degree or whatever, you do have this sense, this aura to you that, well, I know. You know what I'm saying? And then you look down on people who might not be on the same education plane as you. You know, you might think that they can't comprehend, or that you're operating on a super high frequency than that person, but you're really not. It's really connecting on a regular, just human to human basis. Hey, how you doing? I'm Quan. Hey, I'm Eric. You know, hey man, why did you vote for so and so? All right, this and that. Okay, this is why I voted for that. You know, you might agree to disagree, and that's fine. That's the problem. Like, you can agree to disagree and still be cool. The point is, we're at the point now. If you agree to disagree, we can't be friends. You know,
right?
Now, maybe this Trump thing is the exception. I'm going to put an asterisk next to this one. I'm not sure, because this right here affects a lot of people's livelihoods. But
wait, I have a lot of friends that, you know, not a lot. I have friends that are all over the political spectrum. I have friends that campaigned, whatever, you know, voted happily, stood in line to vote for Trump, and were excited when he won. And, you know, I understand it. I understand why they did it. I disagree. I think they're shooting themselves in the foot, but I understand why they could make that decision. And it's not about, if you vote for this person, we can't be friends. It's more about, okay, I understand you voted for that person, but let me be very clear about where you stand, because otherwise we might not be able to be friends. Because if you're out there saying that Muslims need to be registered, that Mexicans need to be jailed, and, you know, that there's no good colored people, well, we can't be friends. But let's define that before we actually get to, you know, drawing a line in the sand. Let's make sure that, you know, well, he's not Hillary Clinton. Okay, I can understand that. I think he's a great businessman. Okay, you're wrong, but I can understand that. But if you're buying into that that crazy shit, that, you know, the alt-right bullshit, well, yeah, then we're gonna have a problem talking to each other. I may have to punch you in the head occasionally. Just let's put that out there.
I need substance. You know, if I'm going to talk to somebody, like, you have to give me substance. You know, you have to be able to stand on something. You have to be able to articulate a point, you know, of why you did something. If we're going to engage in some type of debate, you know, or just even casual talk, you have to, just like Kevin was saying, you got to define your position, because the times that we're in right now, like, I need to know, you know, I need to know where you stand, because I might not align with that. And in your view, in your ideals, you know, things you stand on, those might be threatening to me, you know, because it's like, man, if you stand for that, you know, this is what your position is, and I need to distance myself. But we do have to stop justifying ignorance. You know, there's this nice little, I put this post up and it says, can we please stop justifying ignorance by saying everyone has the right to their opinion? Opinions are like, I prefer coffee over tea. Not that I think women, the LGBT community, people of color are subhuman. And I think we need to kind of get to that point and stop justifying ignorance, being like, oh, well, you know, that he's entitled to feel what he wants to feel. But, you know, some of that's dangerous. You know, like, nah, I can't justify that, because that could infringe on my livelihood or somebody else's livelihood, you know, if they really feel that way. So we that needs to be checked and called out. You can still feel the way you feel, but I need to know so I can distance myself from you, you know, and make a decision that's best for me, you know, or people that's close to me as well.
Yeah. Well, that brings up a good point, because how do you check? And I call it white culture. White culture doesn't necessarily mean it's all white people, but it definitely includes racism, white privilege, all that stuff that's incorporated into that. So when we talk about
I like, dude, can we just create a term that is like asterisks, all y'all fucking y'all?
you people. Yeah, but that's what it is though, is how do you confront people that their sensitivities means putting other people in harm's way?
You sit down and you fucking talk to them.
Easier said than done, maybe.
They're defensive already, though. They're defensive. So
yeah,
Trump supporters are already on defense.
So listen to them then. Don't talk to them. Listen, and let them explain their position. One of my favorite. one of my favorite.
You get a pass, Q. Of all people in this lobby, you get a pass, bro.
Yeah. No. I'm a white dude that, you know, I know how to smack people in the head if I have to. So I'm good. Like, I'll talk to fucking anybody. I don't care. But to me, you sit down and you talk to them, and most people are not confrontational. Even the ones that are kind of racist are gonna, you know, they'll try to just get back a little bit and try to, but they'll keep giving you a little bit, right?
No.
If you sit there and just listen to them, one of my favorite things is a great tool is, you know, you let someone explain their position, you realize that they're fucking right, and you just start helping them understand the logical conclusion of their belief structure. Oh, okay, so we should lock them up like the Japanese during World War II with the internment camps. Is that what you're saying? Well, no. Okay. Well, help me understand where you're going with this. And you just let them talk to them. They're going to convince themselves that, because nobody wants to be the asshole.
Well,
Nobody.
What concerns me though is that what happens if they lock down and they say like, no, I do want a concentration camp for Muslims, and now they've
put them on a list.
Well, dude, everybody's on a list at this point.
Yeah, but here's the thing too, and I think this sounds simple, but it's not. I just think that for the most part, these Trump supporters. Well, let me take it back. Okay, I don't want to be into the business of just generalizing. Okay, people. Some of the people who voted for Trump, right? What needs to stop happening? These are white people, you know. They need to stop telling other people how to feel. You know what I'm saying? And so if you have Muslims out there, people with the Muslim faith that's saying I'm scared, don't fucking tell them why are you scared. Don't tell somebody get over it, move on. You don't take the moral high ground to tell somebody how to feel. If that's how they feel, that's how they feel. They feel threatened right now. Illegal immigrants that are in the United States right now, they're scared. Don't tell them, you know, try to check what they're saying or try to question the validity of how they feel. That's the problem. You know, people are always saying, oh, well, why are you complaining? You got a good, motherfucker, don't tell me how to feel. Like, that's how I feel. Did he not say he wants to deport all Muslims? I mean, deport all illegal immigrants. Did he not say he want to ban all Muslims? So if I'm of the Muslim faith, if I'm a legal immigrant, don't fucking tell me not to feel the way I'm feeling when your guy said that this is what he wanted to do. But now you're telling me to get over it. But he said that, and you voted for that. And if he ran on that, he plans on doing that. And so it's going to affect me, you know, my family, my friends. You know, it can affect a bunch of generations to come. So don't tell me how to feel. You know, just like with women right now, the sexual assault that's happening. Don't tell her how to feel. You know, you don't do that. You don't say, well, you shouldn't have put yourself in that position. Who the fuck are you? You know what? I felt like I had a nice body. I wanted to wear something that accentuated some of the things that I feel proud of in my body. So I wore something that I felt flattering to me, made me feel confident. That doesn't give Mike, John, or whomever the license to come grope me or take something from me that I didn't willingly give to him. You don't victimize the victim, you know. So
at this point, are we just preaching to the choir, though?
We are, and that's why I say I know it sounds simple. We do this shit every 10 years, you know. Every 5 to 10 years, we have the same conversations. We bring up the same points. We bring up the same rhetoric, and nothing changes.
Well, we've been making some progress. I mean, think about 10 years ago where we were with, you know, the LGBTQ. There's a much larger acronym there, but think about where we were with that. Think about where we were. Yeah. Where were we with trans, right? Think about it. In 2013, Hillary Clinton was like, man and woman, marriage, equal. That's it. That's 3 years ago. Barack Obama wasn't really that far ahead. You know, we're not. And think about 10 years ago. Think about where we were.
Well, no, I understand we have progressed, but I'm talking about the type of conversations we're having. Now, I do understand there have been advancements, you know, for certain groups, you know, in society. But for the most part, how we're talking about not victimizing the victim, you know, stop telling people how to feel, things like that. Like just not, you know, looking out things outside of your own lens, you know, showing empathy. These are conversations we're always having. You know, that's why we'll continue to be divided because nobody wants to see it.
I think that's where, like, for me, I do keep coming back to placing responsibility on the left because I think, you know, broadly speaking, they have a better message because it covers more people. It's more inclusive. And that's where I really would like to see, and I'm constantly asking myself how I can also be better at my own communication and the messages that I'm delivering. How do you, it's like, of course, you know, Kevin, when you were saying earlier, I would love for people, you know, to, you know, talk with the homeless people, understand what that life is like, understand that not all of them just were lazy or had, you know, a bad incident, that they had a series of bad incidents. You know, it's just interesting to see that, yeah, those conversations need to take place, but I would also like to see how can people on the left build bridges to those who, you know, self-identify to be on the right.
You listen to them. Understand. So I've said this many times. I've probably said it here a few times. The best way to learn how to argue your point is to listen to and understand your opponent's point of view. It makes you more effective at arguing against it because you actually understand where they're coming from. But from a human point of view, you actually understand where they're coming from. And you were talking earlier about, you know, a list of your values. If you have the left and the right put down a list of their values and you mix those all up and ask someone to sort them into the left and the right, zero chance they'd get it correct. They'd put them all into one side and say, I think they're all the same. You know, it's good. You know, it's you got to get out there. You got to listen. And realistically, you have to, once you understand someone, once you have that empathy, you can help them understand your point of view because you can talk to them at a level that they're comfortable with.
Do you think this is something that I actually might place on universities and colleges? Would you want to organize something with me here in Flagstaff to try to get some folks on the right, try to get some independents, try to get, you know, the libertarians and those on the left, and try to just get several groups in one room and just kind of see what happens?
So here, I can already tell you what's going to happen because this has happened before. Everyone agrees. We got to do something. This isn't right. We shouldn't treat people that way. You know, you got the one guy in the corner who's like, you know what? God damn it, I hate Mexicans, but my sister's gay, so maybe I'll give it a chance. You know what I mean? Like we need more of that conversation. We need people to not sit there and tell their Uncle Fred that he's an asshole for voting for Trump at Thanksgiving, even though, God, it'll feel so good. Listen up, Fred. You know,
right?
Okay, Uncle Fred, you have 3 minutes to convince me why you're not a total asshole. Why did you vote for this guy? And he's going to explain it to you. And if you actually listen and don't think about, here's what, well, I know what I'm going to say to him when he's done talking. Listen to him. He's not lying to you. I mean, maybe he harbors some hidden, racist agenda. Maybe he doesn't. But he's going to tell you why he voted for the person. And listen.
Yeah.
Okay. Too long didn't read. Listen to people.
Yeah. Because I wonder that too is part of, I definitely think that's a part of the whole process. Where I'm wondering is, okay, after you listen, then what? Because I hear what you're saying. It helps you understand their argument better. It helps you understand their perspective, so you can actually respond to it in a way that would be more of a direct connection as opposed to just coming at it from some weird angle. But that's where I do wonder, how can you talk from a place of less ego? And sometimes I think it's the language, because one of the things that I noticed when I was listening back to the debates between Bernie and Hillary, Bernie would always use the word we and us. That was just how he addressed things. and Hillary tended to go more in the direction of I.
Well, their campaign slogans, as soon as she came out with "I'm with her," they came out. The Bernie folks answered back with "He's with us." It's a very telling, just those two slogans. And so where do you go once you understand their point of view? Once Uncle Fred, you're like, okay, Uncle Fred, I actually understand. You've made some good points. I'd still disagree, but I understand. Well, now the work begins, right? Because you've listened to someone. You haven't yelled at them. Even if you want to yell at them, even if you're gonna yell at them, at least you took the time to listen to them and you heard them, right? So now the work begins. You go out and you say, okay, Fred, Donald Trump, okay, given the two choices, I understand why you went the way you did, right? Using this presidential election. I understand why you did that. But if we're looking at future candidates, if we're looking at a way to bring ourselves forward, how do we find a way that you can get what you want enough, I can get what I want enough, and we can find some of that common ground? If Uncle Fred's a racist, well, fuck Uncle Fred, you're not getting anywhere. But if if he's one of the people that's like, I really think we need a businessman, or you can actually find that conversation to where you'll have common ground. You can actually progress things. Worst case scenario, you talk to someone in your life, you make a new friend, you engage with someone. That's the worst case scenario. Well, worst case scenario is he's a racist asshole and you got to hit him with a frying pan on Thanksgiving. Mostly good scenario is, worst case scenario is that you get a communication line open. You realize that you disagree on some points and you find that common ground to where maybe you can finally run a candidate from your base, from your core, right? That Uncle Fred will support because you understand him and people like him and what it is they want.
Right.
Yeah. And you bring up valid points. One thing I just kind of want to put in there too is to sum up what you were saying as an example. I like Van Jones. I think a lot of people know who Van Jones is. But he had an episode where he actually went to a Trump supporter house. It was a full family, and he sat down and he had dialogue. And that's really what he pushes. He's like, we just need to talk. And at first it was a little testy, but he stayed the course. He didn't let them bring him out of his character. And they had a great conversation, and he was able to really, and so to Kevin's point, he was able to pull out what their fears were, what they were concerned about, and why they felt Trump was their guy. And he brought out good points too. Like he fact checked them on a lot of things. A lot of stuff was rhetoric they was putting out there, just stuff they heard in the media. A lot of stuff they were saying were talking points. And he was kind of like, debunking a lot of things they were saying. But he respected what they were trying to say. Well, not trying, but he respected what they were saying. And it was beautiful dialogue. They did agree to disagree on a lot of things. And this is something that I'll send to you, Eric, and you can post it on the page. But it's great. It's like 7 to 8 minutes. And it is good. It was great dialogue. And it was educated. And he didn't demean anybody because, first off, he was the smartest one in that house. Nothing against them, but just where he's at. He went. I believe he went to Yale. He's just, this dude is just on a whole nother planet. But he didn't come in like that. He came in, hey, look, I'm on your level. Let's talk. So just like what Kevin was saying, the homeless guy or the guy on the side of the road, just talk to him. And when they broke down that wall, they realized there was really nothing that was different between them. They just had different ways of looking at things. So
yeah. I actually had a conversation with a homeless guy in Heritage Square about 6-8 months ago. And he came up and he was talking about, Donald Trump is my guy. I like him, blah, blah, blah. And he was drinking alcohol the whole time and progressively getting less and less stable as we went. And everyone around me, the funny thing is everyone around me that were these leftist progressives were kind of like, why are you talking to that guy? I'm like, because he's a guy, because he's a human being. He wants to have a conversation. I'm not afraid. There's some privilege in, in being me, right? White male, not exactly, 100 pounds soaking wet. And I'll have a conversation with this guy. He was challenging me pretty hard on some points, and I was pushing back on him. And you could see just in his eyes that someone would actually take the time to talk to him and debate him on the issues and say, okay, no, I understand what you're saying. No, that's a good point. Have you thought about this? And we got to the point, and my favorite thing is the last thing the guy said to me is, as he was kind of walking away, he's kind of nodding. He's like, you're right. He might actually be Hitler. And he went on about his day. And I thought that was hilarious because he came in going, he's my guy. And it wasn't like I talked him into it. I just listened to him and then asked him questions on his points. I didn't tell him this is how it is. He told himself how it was.
I have a question for both of y'all real quick. And this is something that maybe I overlooked during the campaign runs. But, you know, historically, you know, the Rust Belt, the Bible Belt is always like, oh, we need a Christian president. You know, you gotta have Christian values. Did Trump ever appeal to that? I don't really ever remember Trump. He did? He appealed to that? Okay, I just didn't really hear anything.
He got like 83% of the evangelical vote.
No, I know he did, but like, I mean, talking about his rhetoric, like his speeches, I just don't really remember really hearing anything overly religious about his speeches.
No, so you're correct. I think that he wasn't actually, he'd slip stuff in, but he had his surrogates. He had these pastors going out that are stumping for him and saying, this is a man of God. He took Jesus into his life, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Okay, I remember that. Okay, got you. But that's weird, though, because normally they want the candidate. And I understand the surrogate part, but normally they need to hear out the president's mouth. Because I know when Barack was running and presidents prior to that, they need to hear it out your mouth that, yes, you know, I'm a Christian or whatever. We subscribe to those values. Yada, yada, yada. So I know his circuits went out there, but
with Barack, they were like, no, we want to watch him walk in the church. I want to see if he's making Muslim signs. He got hand signs. Are those gang signs or Muslim signs? Can't tell.
Yeah, they didn't care.
Did you know he's Kenyan?
They didn't care. They didn't care what his faith was. But yeah, that's what I was wondering. Okay, gotcha. Thanks for clearing that up.
Well, hey guys, we're at about time here, so you guys want to leave off with some last comments or thoughts, or you know, maybe what we might want to do for the next episode, because I know we want to get back to doing some topical stuff and bringing in some guests. So what do you guys think?
So I mean, I think all of us would love to actually have that conversation with a Trump supporter. You know, you're going to get made fun of a little bit because that's what we do, or that's what I do. But at the same time, you know, if you're defending your points, I want to hear from you. I want to learn, you know, not just because I want to get better at arguing against you, but I actually want to understand, because we looked at the same evidence and we made different decisions. I understand some of that point of view. I don't understand some of it. So I would love to actually engage in people. If you're watching this and you're like, you know what, man, fuck all y'all. Hey, you know what? Come on. Join us for a conversation, because I think you're going to learn something. We're going to learn something. And, you know, it's going to be that much. We're all going to be that much better for having that dialogue.
I agree. I want to, for me personally, I would like to stop referring to Trump supporters as racist. It's really hard for me to do that right now because there's too many connections that I see. But I would love to hear that if somebody can make a point and actually demonstrate to me how this is not connected and how they can somehow vote for him or support his policies without that, then yeah, I would love to learn something myself.
Yeah, and for me, in closing, listen, I'm gonna just kind of veer off. Listen, we gotta still talk about this Dakota pipeline. Okay, this thing is still happening. You know, they had a couple. I forgot who he was, but he was a high-ranking member of one of the tribes. He went to the UN. You know, he actually flew out to the UN to appeal to the UN to help, because nobody's helping here in the United States. So that's one thing. And the second thing we still need to talk about as well is the alarming rate of cops that's been killed, right? By white men. I just want to put that out there. Because actually the highest rate of deaths for cops is suicide. Second is white men killing cops, you know. But it's not about white men killing cops. It's about the fact that this whole Blue Lives Matter thing, you know, to me, it's hypocritical, because this is an alarming rate of cops that are being killed. At the end of the day, listen, I have my issues with police, but at the end of the day, they're still human beings, and I respect the loss of life. That's just where it comes down to, and it's happening, and the media is not covering it. And all you Blue Lives Matter thumpers, I do not hear y'all, especially on Facebook and social media or anything. I don't see it. It's not on the news. It's nowhere. Cops are getting killed every day. getting ambushed, and nobody's saying anything about it. But let a brother, let a a Latino, do it. It's front page news, So it's like we got to get our heads out of our asses. So again, Dakota Pipeline, don't forget about that. And these cops are getting killed at an alarming rate by white males. So the coverage needs to be equal, and we need to talk about this kind of stuff. So that's all I have.
Sounds good to me. All right. Well, Kevin and Laquan, thank you guys again for coming on. Thank everybody for watching. This is the Oracle M podcast, and we try to do this every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That would be 5 p.m. In California and on the West Coast, and then East Coast. Is it 2 hours?
8 p.m.
Okay, 8 p.m. So, yeah, and again, we're looking to bring on guests. We don't necessarily have to talk about the topics that we've been bringing up because we do want to kind of branch out. I mean, I would love to talk more about, what's going on with science and technology. I think that plays a huge role in what's going on in society and how it's being connected to these social and environmental issues. So yeah, if anybody's interested, send us a mail, leave a comment. We'll definitely respond, and we will see y'all next week. Take care.
The honeybees are dying.
Yet another topic. All right. See you guys.